'Tis not an army that is needed from the north, Miriel told her. Just the active witness that the Norse come. He leaned towards her and whispered by her ear, rumor has it that your king has married his daughter to Anlaf Guthfrithson. Osrith pulled back a little, giving Miriel a silent look, which she then radiated onto Elfrith, who curled his lip in a questioning smile. It is Edra, his adopted daughter, and they are not married, Osrith said quickly, her eyes darting to the door of the stables, echoing Miriel. If you remember, she is Father Bicker's child, her mother his wife, Adane. Your adopted daughter, Elfrith asked Osrith. She nodded. And they are not wed, not even betrothed. Elfrith smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Indeed, this whole encounter was not the comfortable, warm welcome that Osrith had imagined. Indeed, none of this was what she imagined. No slip back into life. Life had moved on, and she had stood still. Life paused as she raised her child. Elfrith's voice brought Osrith out of her thoughts, and she forced herself to look at her friend, her once commander, her once soldier, as he came out with it all. So, the idea that Constantine is courting the Norse to allow them onto a second frontier, with the aid of King Diffenwell, and your brother? The accusation hung between them. Clearly a link had been put together that did not exist. Someone, Ethelflad, Osrith supposed, had conflated Anlaf's visit to Dunnottar. So it is not true? Elflad asked, his voice taking on a hard tone, and Osrith looked at her dear friend, and felt a pulse of pain in her chest, pain born from time apart, nearly 5 years apart. She had had a child she had missed so much. Entirely not. Osrith found she was protesting, despite not knowing anything of the sort. Entirely, she broke off, and looked away. After a moment, she looked back. In truth, I do not know, she confessed. The last battle I fought was the one just over there, when the Norse were incurring into Ireland. Osrith broke off, and started as two arms drew her close for a moment, before Elfrith kissed her forehead. Welcome back to Mercia, Captain, he told Osrith. We are at your service as you carry out your own service. 2 years. I believe the Lady Ethelflad commanded you pay back to the kingdom. Osrith drew back, and smiled, a wide, deep smile of a person amongst friends. Your men will be pleased to have you back, he added. They have suffered under Elfkin, they truly have. Elfkin, Captain? Truly? Osrith asked, astonished, looking between Miriel and Elfrith. You forget he is a child no longer, Miriel reminded her, and that you have a boy of your own. And your hair is graying. It was true, Osrith thought, and the worm of doubt ate at her stomach. Could she do this? Was she able? But the point of my sword is still sharp, Osrith retorted, shaking away uncertainty. Do you want me to prove it to you? She placed hand on Buey, and Miriel laughed. Same old Osrith, as you said she would be, Miriel told Elfrith, and then Elfrith bent to her ear again. We think you are here to test the alliance, Elfrith told her. To check Constantine's word holds true. Clearly it does. Clearly trust has been offered by your king, that he would send his best warriors, and the heir to the Strathclydian throne in your midst. That is good. Presumably, you will report back to him, with the Norse trespasses, added Miriel, raising a hand and patting Osrith lightly on her upper arm. I will report back to him, Osrith agreed. But I am ready for battle. Older, changed, but ready. Good, Elfrith told her. Because the alarm will be raised tonight, as it is raised every night, the sign that the Norse have attacked villages and settlements. It is our job to keep them at bay while the Lady Ethelflad finishes building the burh, a mighty burh in the line of sight of every Northman who comes east from Dublin, Miriel told her. Armed, ready. Ready for what? Osrith asked, wishing she hadn't had to. But she could guess already. Noise had already been made by the Norse about settling, about regaining the land they had held, under Ragnar the Fearless, under Ivar, under Yuba and the rest. But, Osrith began, but Elfrith held up a hand, the evening glow of the sun reflecting from his fingers. We must return you, he told Osrith. Your Alba warriors will be wondering where you are. Aethelstan will be wondering where I am. Aethelstan? Osrith echoed, acting in his aunt's stead, acting to his aunt's exact words, much to his infamy. Elfrith strode towards the door of the stables as thick, Heavy rain buffeted it. Osrith made to stride after him, steeling herself for the interrogation, for the test of loyalty. She was emissary for Constantine, come to observe the Norse, assist in their repulsion, or, if not repulsion, limitation. But it was laughable that they five could add much to the resistance. She could command her men again, she supposed, and dash. But the thoughts withered in Osrith's mind as she glanced to Elfrith again. They had known one another for over 30 years, and the grab that she made for his arm was one laden with familiarity, of trust. She lowered her head. Elfrith, in all the time he had known Osrith, had never known her to weep. She was not weeping now, as far as he could ascertain, but her frame was moving as if she was, and he gave an uncertain glance to Miral. When Osrith looked up, there was a look of fear, one of panic, and he put a steady arm around her shoulders before she straightened up. The last battle in which I stood, dear friend, was the one against the Norse, just over there. Osrith's voice was low, clear. I am still in Constantine's service, but I thought ... guard duty, even on the East Coast, repelling finer hair, or training the young noble bratlings. She looked up to him, her fear made real in words between them. My body has changed, my mind too, as I knew it would. Why I saw through this pregnancy, when I chose to end every other CHLD from my body. Her voice drifted off. Elfrith put a hand on her shoulder. I earn this, I wed, I become a farmer. You, he began, and glanced to Miral. Wed? To the Irishman? Osrith smiled wanly. His name is Sainid. He is kin to Constantine and the head of his household guard. You met him once, Elfrith, when he came with me to Wessex when I brought Edra to see her father. Elfrith nodded, remembering the slight, black-haired man, who could barely speak English but knew the language of the alehouse and had struck up a friendship with Steeper. Then you have done, you are doing your best for the child, Elfrith assured her. You did ... You have done what any parent would do, put the babe somewhere you know to be safe, give it a future. His voice was soft by her ear, and pulled her to him for a moment, embracing her as a friend, and long and loyal comrade, and she remembered Elfrith's wife, Ethel, and the empty cribs they both longed to have filled. If Constantine had not thought you could do this, he would not have sent his best warriors with you as their captain. He would not have sent the heir to the throne of Strathclyde. Which was true. All of it was true. After the effort to retrieve Owain, and stabilize Dyfnwal's line, pacifying him by securing his line, Constantine would have only sent her if he thought she was able. He knew she owed her time to Ethelfled, and had spoken to her about how serious she was in repaying the time. I can strike a bargain, Constantine had told her, one early morning, when he had scaled the tower and entered her maternity chamber. I can send Ethelfled wealth, or men. But Osrith, then as now, had refused, would refuse. And there was Sainid, whom she had agreed to marry once her time had been paid. Clearly Constantine wanted the marriage to happen as soon as possible and facilitated Osrith an opportunity. You're smiling, said Miral, light in his own eyes from the setting sun. I am glad to see that, Osrith. He looked to Elfrith. Osrith has come back to us, friend, he told him, and Elfrith nodded. Look to us, should you need to. Should you wish to confide away from your men. We are in a tricky situation. The Norse are welcomed on the one hand, with the land Ethelfled gifted to them on the whilom, on the other, so many come that they will overwhelm us. And Osrith threw herself at Miral then, the grumpy, bad-tempered former captain of Odda's guard, who had mellowed when he had been allowed to return to Mercia, and had warmed to Osrith as she proved herself time and again skillful and able at warfare. We are glad to have you here, in short, Elfrith told her, and gave her another hug at the shoulders. It is a pity it is not forever. It's for a good long time, Osrith told him. Many months at least, until we are recalled. Until whatever use our being here is played out. Then, the men are yours, of course, to command, Elfrith told her. Work with them, with Oshir and Falkburg, and Eglwulf and Leofstan. Elfkin can be your second. Get your band to work as one, trust me when I say that you will need to.